Welcome to Write with Love. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling author, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. Each week, I chat to passionate and inspiring authors about their journey in creative writing. Some are traditionally published, some do it themselves. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone has something interesting to say. We all love love and love what we do. Today's show is brought to you by our amazing fans and supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the show and get some awesome bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author to learn more. Now here's today's show. G'day and welcome to Write with Love. Today on the show, I'm chatting to Kat T. Masen. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. I can't wait to talk to you. In your own words, you write sexy, humorous, smart. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey to publication?
So I never read sexy, humorous, smart. I grew up reading a lot. So typical, I read Babysitter's Club when I was in my pre-teens, or I don't know what that era is. In my teens, I was heavily into Virginia Andrews. I absolutely loved her work. Also the Judy Blume and all that. So I've always read. I actually didn't really read romance books unless I snuck a Mills and Boon here or there, which was pretty raunchy back in the day. Yeah. And so I never considered myself a reader. I just read whenever I felt like it. And it was probably around the time, I know you've probably heard this 1,000 times, when Twilight came out. I had friends reading it and I hadn't read anything vampire-like. And I actually ended up watching the movies first. I fell in love with the movies. I read all the books. And I was in love with it. And I had a former boss who I just left a particular job. And she said to me, if you love Twilight, you've really got to read these 50 Shades of Grey. Now, I've never heard of it. And I said, oh, what do you mean? She said, oh, it's like a heightened version of Twilight. So because I was so obsessed with Twilight, it made sense that I would read 50 Shades of Grey. So I read that in one sitting, I believe. I think it was all 3 books were out. I read that in one sitting. Changed my life because I'd never read anything, when I look back at it, as raunchy as that. And I jumped on Twitter because I was on Twitter a lot those days, not really on Facebook. And I went to go find the author. And I met some other women as we were kind of stalking the author, and we kind of got to chatting and to Ella James, and we formed all these friendships on Twitter. We became this kind of group of girls that kind of followed her and became friends. And it opened up the door to reading fan fiction at that point. So because of the Twilight of 50 Shades, and 50 Shades stemmed from fan fiction, I started reading a lot of Twilight fan fiction. And as you do, I never wanted to write, to be honest. I've never even thought about it. I was reading so many, and I said to a friend of mine, oh, if only you could take Edward in this scenario from this book and this book and this book and this book and put him into this book. And she said to me, why don't you write that? And I went, well, and so I started writing actually as fan fiction. My Dark Love series was probably, I think 75% of it was fan fiction. And then I said, no, I'm going to stop and I'm actually going to write it as my story. And that's pretty much how I started writing.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. So have you always self-published your own books? Did you ever try submitting to a traditional house?
So I always self-published, and it was probably last year, the past couple of years, I had it on my list of I'm going to submit to a publisher. I have a lot of friends who are published, and I have a lot of indie friends. Mm-hmm. The past year, I've thrown myself full-time into of being a writer. And so my thoughts on it has changed. I love the control I have over my books and my brand. And sometimes that is taken away from you. So for now, I have not submitted to any publisher. I I like to write whatever I feel like writing. So that's what I kind of do.
Yeah, awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about your books. So what kind of, obviously with Sexy, Humorous, Smart, I'm guessing your heat level is kind of going to be a little bit higher than some. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I I called my brand Sexy, Humorous, Smart because my books kind of fell in that. They all have this similar trait of a couple that are usually not together. There's a lot of sexual banter and they get together later on and then they break up and all this kind of stuff. And so whilst there's a lot of angst in that book, I never go too dark, and hence why you got your sexy. There's always this humorous banter between these two main leads. And so that's how I got that. And this the smuttiness, yes. So that's a lot more so in my first series, but as we're writing on the writing journey, it's phasing out a little bit. I'm very different to where I was, I think 6 years ago, or however long ago it was.
Yeah, for sure. We all grow and change, and that's just part of life. It's awesome.
Yes.
So you wrote a series called the Roomies series. So tell us where that started and what the premise was.
Yes. So this one here is Roomie Wars. It follows with Wedding Wars and Baby Wars. So I'm an 80s girl. I grew up in the 80s, born in 1980. I'll throw my age out there. So I grew up in the 80s. So this is the first book I wrote where there was these weren't two single people who didn't know each other. These guys were roommates. And out of all the books I've written, I would say that this character is almost like me, the female character. She's very 80s obsessed. She's always singing to 80s songs and referencing movies, and a bit of a slob when she feels like it. And so it made sense to do this roommate because I didn't want to do an insta love. I wanted to do someone who she was completely comfortable with. And it's actually a bit of a swap when she first meets him. He's, a little bit overweight. He's that geek. He's wearing the Star Wars t-shirt. He's not what he is now. And she is the beautiful, glamorous roommate. And she has a failed relationship, and then she's gained a bit of weight and not caring about her appearance. And then he's gone the buff and he's become the doctor, and their lives have reversed. And so what I love about this, it's built on a friendship, and then obviously as you go into the book, it kind of one little thing kind of changes everything, and then we move on to Wedding Wars and Baby Wars. But I probably don't have to explain that because it kind of makes sense from the title.
I was going to say, so I'm guessing this is the same couple in the second and third books.
They are, but I like to take a spin on, Wedding Wars was taking a spin on the whole bridezilla, how you can be incredibly in love with someone, but, that wedding can completely change a woman, I'm going to say that. And then Baby Wars as well, it was taking a different spin on having a baby. I wrote that early this year, so kind of fresh of when I had my last baby 2 years ago. So it was really kind of digging into more so the reality of being pregnant, not what you actually see on television. So that book was quite popular because a lot of women had said, oh yes, that is the reality, which is usually not pretty.
Yeah, no, it's not. I've had 4 kids too. I know what it's like. Fantastic. So the most recent book that you've had come out is called Sweet Temptation, and this one's got a bit of a Halloween theme, which I thought was pretty cool and a beautiful cover.
So I absolutely love this cover. It's probably the only cover I've done that oh no, it's not, I'm going to take that back. It is one of the covers I've done with a female. I haven't done a female in a long time. I wrote that one because I was part of a Halloween collaboration. I've never written, this isn't paranormal, but I haven't written anything paranormally. So for this one, I wanted to take a spin on one of my other books, Mr. Rebound and The Layover. So the spin is this sister is in love with her brother-in-law, and she's pining for him, and every day she wishes it was her and not her sister who he fell in love with. So the spin in this book is she wakes up one day and she is her sister. So it was very, very difficult to write because it's very Freaky Friday, waking up and being in somebody else's body. But I really, really enjoyed it, and it was fun to write something that's completely out of my element. It was very, very, even though it's a small book, it was very difficult to write. But I had fun with it, and it was received, very well. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, fantastic. It looks awesome. I can't wait to get into it and read it in these holidays. So you're, a busy lady, but of course, a busy lady, give her the job. So you also are the organizer of Books by the Bridge signing events. Tell us, for all those people who haven't heard of Books by the Bridge before, tell us what it involves and what some of your events are.
So I started Books by the Bridge in 2017 or 2016, and I started it. I felt there was a lack of book signings in Australia. There were book signings in Australia, but they were usually invitation only. They were really hard to get into. I wanted to sign in Sydney. This is my hometown. So I started with Books by the Bridge in Sydney. To me, I wanted to showcase our city, and there was no better location than the Crystal Palace in Luna Park because you had your Harbour Bridge and your Opera House there. So we had the 2017 event, which was massive. I didn't expect it to be that big. And then we followed on with, what was the one after that? We had New York last year, which was amazing, and Los Angeles, which was a smaller one. And then this year we had the Sydney again. It's every 2 years. That one was, I thought last time was big. This one is really big. Books by the Bridge in Sydney specifically definitely is a very large event and not at all like the other ones. And so then we had SeaWorld, which obviously you were at in September. And that was amazing. A different location for us, but we had some very dedicated readers who knew about the Books by the Bridge brand. And then we have Yarra Valley next year, New York again, and then Sydney in 2021. And the one that I forgot about this year was Barossa. Sorry, I knew there was the one I forgot about. Barossa as well. We had it in May. So the first time we'd done South Australia. So that was amazing to also do South Australia.
Yeah, that's a great lineup. So I remember hearing, I didn't manage to get to the Sydney one this year. I'm totally going to go to the next Sydney one, hopefully as an author. But you had Abby Glines was there, and I heard it was just incredible. How many people actually came through the door that one?
So we had a ticket count of just under 600. I think it was between the high 5 to 600. That was the final count, I believe, on Friday night. So it is quite a large event. It's very different to the more intimate events. It's long waits for your favorite authors, unfortunately. Abby Glines was one of them, that her line just never stopped. We have readers who fly in from all over the country and out of Australia. They wait 2 years for this event, saving up their money to pre-order. So, from an author's perspective, it's very successful for us. We have dedicated readers who they really, really go crazy with pre-ordering and buying books, and you just see piles and piles of books that people are buying, and it's just crazy. And as for the readers, it's a chance to have that weekend away in Sydney. Usually there's an after party or a pre-event party. They get to meet the authors, they get to have lunches. So it's a pretty big deal. It's a big weekend. So I love it, but it is a hell of a lot of work. I'm not going to argue that.
No, I remember you said there for a little while that you weren't going to do any more, and then suddenly you're organising all these new ones. Like, what? You're crazy.
I say that all the time. I just want to point that out. I say that all the time. And it's the pressure I feel, I think, when I go to other sightings or I go somewhere and they're like, oh, I've started saving my money for Sydney. When's the date? And I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, okay. So, I think what makes it easier for me is the fact that I've got some fabulous contacts in the industry. Luna Park are amazing, and they host our event. So that makes it easier. And I think the more location we do, the same location, it makes it easier for me because I know what to expect. When it's a brand new location like SeaWorld, for example, it's a little bit more difficult, but once it's over, it's definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just pitch, if anyone out there is wanting to follow Books by the Bridge, would the Facebook page be the best place to kind of keep up with, the expressions of
the Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
The Facebook page. Website, though, I'm a little bit slack on updating that. So Facebook page is usually the best place to go.
Excellent. And it's Books by the Bridge, as in the Sydney Harbour Bridge. That's how I always remember. There was a Books by the Beach for a while.
Yeah.
It's getting a bit confusing.
Yeah. So, no, you'll notice it because it'll have the Books by the Bridge banner on it, and you'll see Sydney. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And the other little entrepreneurial thing you do on the side is Books Ever After boxes. Tell us all about those.
I do. I have a box here. Now, I know that if there's any readers who actually bought this, they're probably wanting to see the contents, which I wish I could show you. Are scattered all over my office in boxes, but not in here yet because it's a secret. So I launched that pretty much this time last year when I was finishing up working full-time in the corporate role. I'd wanted to do it because I have a fantastic contact in the printing industry. She, if I show you an example, which I showed you in Sweet Temptation and Babel, she does all my covers in the foil. So she's local in Sydney. So with her help, and wanting to do a book box that was for everybody across the world, but obviously for Australia, we get slammed with postage of having to buy things from America. So I wanted to do that, but I wanted to be able to showcase new authors as well. So I don't really have my books in there. I think once I've had it. And so it's been amazing. That is our Christmas box. Again, I'll show you, that's our Christmas box. This one has 3 paperbacks in it. It's also got this funky apron and a Christmas ornament and all these other pieces and swag. So it ships across Australia and worldwide as well. Yeah. And there's also not many left, only because we've had that pre-order open for a while, and they start shipping next week just so no one gets delayed.
Fantastic. So how often do you do those each year?
I try to stick to when there's a special occasion. So we had Christmas last year, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, a mid-year July one, Halloween, and then Christmas again. So next year will just depend on my workload because I'm very busy and it's hard to juggle all 3 things. So I'd love to say there's a Valentine's Day one, but I'm not sure yet. So there definitely will be a Mother's Day one because that one was very, very popular.
Yeah, fantastic. And so where can people go and sign up for your next box?
So with the Christmas box, you can find it on Instagram if you find the handle Books Ever After Bookbox. Same as Facebook. Also, the website is bookseverafterbookbox.com. So you can actually order there. So I tend to not take pre-orders for the next box until we finalize that box. So for this one is the Christmas one now, and it is a secret what's in there. There's always an Australian author in there, and there's always an international author. They're printed in the limited edition foil. So no one really knows what's inside this one, and that's the whole fun of it. It's supposed to be a surprise for the grown-ups because we don't really get surprises anymore. So that's just kind of fun. And there are obviously a lot of readers we have who try to sneak peek and find out what it is beforehand. But yeah, so it is a surprise, but it's always guaranteed that the authors, I only put fantastic books in there and books that I highly recommend, and authors I highly recommend as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, brilliant. So what are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment, I am trying to wrap up a book. I'm part of a Cocky World production. So Vi Keelan and Penelope Ward are Amazon bestsellers, best known for Cocky Bastard. So I'm actually working on a book that's part of their world. I wish I could show you a cover, but I haven't released it yet. It's called Arrogant Aussie. It's fun because I get to write an Aussie guy for once, not an American guy. So I'm finishing that up hopefully soon. And then I'll just show you a pic. So this is probably, I would say, close to my bestseller book, #Jerk. The follow-up hashtag, I hope I can say the word bitch online, is also going to come out for Yarra Valley. So yeah, that's what I'm working on in the near future, and who knows after that. I tend to not plan too far ahead because then I get too stressed out.
That's it. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, where can we find you online and keep up with everything that you're doing?
So Instagram, at author Kat T Masen, I'm on there. Facebook, definitely Facebook. I have a readers group as well. So the readers group is called If You Like Pina Coladas. So to give you a little bit of a story behind that, it actually was called Sexy Humorous Smut. Please edit that out. And the reason why I'd said that word is because I would get an influx of Korean men. Don't ask me why. Every single day when I had that title, Sexy Humorous Smut. So I was like, and they were all from university. I don't know why. So I decided one day, I can't do this. I can't be rejecting all these men. So I'm going to change the title. Couldn't come up with something. Well, readers were coming up with something. Call it Cat's Cave this, Kitty Cat this. And I was like, I don't know what's going to get stuck in your head. And I just temporarily called it If You Like Pina Coladas. So I left it at that because now it's known for that title. And it's very catchy when you put it in your head.
It is. Now I really want a pina colada. Oh my God. And you've got a website as well.
Just like
yeah, brilliant.
Yep, it's cat.com as well. So all my books are on there and my events as well. And you can also link through to the book boxes on there.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Kat. That was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Jump onto my website, sarahwilliamsauthor.com, and join my mailing list to receive a free preview of my books and lots of other inspiration. If you like the show and wanted to continue, you can become a sponsor for just a couple of dollars a month. Go to patreon.com/sarahwilliamsauthor. And remember to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a review of the podcast. I'll be back next week with another loved up episode. Bye!